Kelly, my whole day revolves around eating meals and what time, I can eat food at. Like when I'm finished check-ins, I'm thinking, oh, I can relax now. I'm like, oh no, I have to eat my next meal. Finish up my next meal. I'm like, right, I'll relax. I'll sit down. I'll do this. But then I'm like, I only have 57 minutes to eat this or to chill before I have to go to my next meal. So now I'm nearly getting anxious about I don't have time to chill. I have to eat my next meal, and it's just a combination of all that stress. And like you were saying.
Hello and welcome to episode 1 of the Dave Hartrey podcast. This is a brand new podcast and we can expect some exciting guests over the next couple of episodes. If you haven't already, please be sure to like, subscribe, and if you're putting a story up on Instagram, be sure to tag us as well. So up first, we have online coach, bodybuilder, and one of my closest friends, Conor Browne. So Conor, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I suppose you're after literally saying everything about me there. That's all anyone needs to know. I'm sure anyone listening would probably already know of me, at least through you. But just a quick summary. Like I said, a full-time online coach, men's physique athlete from Waterford, Ireland, but living in Manchester now at the moment. I competed last year in my first show, done PCA Ireland, managed to get gold in my category there, competed at the Arnold's, got first call out, and since then have been in the off season over in Manchester. And yeah, I think that's me summarized.
Brilliant. And tell me, Conor, why did you decide to move to Manchester?
The whole idea of moving to Manchester, do you know what? It wasn't Manchester first. It was just moving out of Ireland was the first thought. Manchester was actually literally just off the cuff thought that Kelly had actually said, my girlfriend. But the whole idea of going to Manchester was just similar to Ireland in terms of food culture, and then the bodybuilding thing, having a great gym over here was the big thing. The whole idea was coming here to excel in, I suppose, bodybuilding career and business wise as well, being around kind of like-minded individuals. The original thought was to go somewhere warm, sunny, live the online coach lifestyle, I suppose, having that freedom to move wherever you want. So we had thought Marbella, everyone was in Marbella. Then we thought Barcelona, maybe a city might be a little bit better. But we have 2 dogs. We had 1 dog at the time, and trying to move with a dog just seems so stressful. Trying to find dog-friendly apartments seemed even more stressful. So we were kind of in a bit of a rut, thinking we're never going to move out of Ireland. Kelly then suggested Manchester. And yeah, once she said that, just everything fell into place. Within less than a month, I think we were gone.
Okay, brilliant. And yeah, like it's a bit of a weird one kind of moving away, because trying to pick the right location when you're, as big into training as you are, and then obviously you have to take into consideration the environment, the food that's available, all these kind of things. So like, how have you found Manchester since you got over there? Because like it is a very, from the people we know anyway, it's a very bodybuilding crowd over there, but just from us being friends, I know that like you are kind of in that life, but you're not, fully in it like other people are in it. So how do you find living over there?
Like before we had came here, we were actually in Lanzarote for 4 weeks, and that was almost a decisive factor of moving as well, because obviously it was sunny, but it was also more not party, but I'd say more holiday destination. But I realized I can't move somewhere sunny because of the food. Like in Spain, it was just, I couldn't stomach anything. Digestion was in the bin. I was throwing up food. So that is when I was like, right, let's move to Manchester. Like you were saying, food was a big factor as well. And at the time, I was the only one coming over. There's obviously a lot of us now. I know Ryan had played with the idea of going to Manchester. When I said to him, he was like, yeah, he's going to Manchester as well. So, that was a big thing, to have kind of people around and not, I suppose, just being there on your own. Which for me, it's not the biggest thing, because obviously I'd be moving over with Kelly anyway. But yeah, kind of since being here, it started off very well. Loved it. It was very novelty. All the food places, you just get Five Guys whenever you want. Fucking on Deliveroo every single day, trying to find every new place to eat from, going into a massive town, endless shops. It was amazing, and I feel like the novelty has worn off somewhat, and now it's kind of just back to being a bit of a bodybuilder, staying inside, eating the same meals, training as I would normally at home. So it's still enjoyable, maybe not as enjoyable as when I first came over, just because I think that novelty factor is gone.
Yeah. And So how let's take it back a bit. How did you first get into fitness, coaching, bodybuilding? Like, give me a little bit of background on, say, your younger years and how you transitioned into the life you have now.
Yeah, so when I started, like how I got into it, like the best way to describe it is I was just a skinny kid, but I've always been vain, if that makes sense. Like I always liked the idea of looking good or seeing someone look at me and kind of, be like, oh, he works out or he looks big. That was like, there was no, I was bullied and I needed to do this. It was just vain. I wanted to look good. I wanted to feel good. And that was the driving factor to get into the gym. I actually joined my first gym when I was 16, but I was doing the Leaving Cert at the time, didn't have a car. So I wasn't actually able to really go to the gym. So when I actually started was when I was 17, finished the Leaving Cert, and I was going into college. And all I kept thinking was, I think I was 9 stone at the time. I was like, I'm 9 stone, I'm gangly, I'm going into college where there's obviously going to be older, bigger lads. And I just didn't want to look, like I stand out like a little child in college. And yeah, that's kind of when I started. And since then, it's been consistent for the last 9 years. So it was just, yeah, skinny kid, didn't want to be skinny anymore.
Yeah, and I think like that is such a big thing for a lot of people because not everyone who gets into this life like has loved the gym from the very start. Because I know you have a background on like you were quite different to a lot of people who would get into bodybuilding, like in the sense that like you used to be into music, skateboarding, and like things that people wouldn't really associate with bodybuilding and stuff.
Yeah.
So it was interesting to see you go from that life to as extreme as you went with it, because I think it's very important for young people to see this as well, because I think a lot of doubt can set in with young people if they think that their whole life hasn't been going to the gym, or they weren't sporty growing up or whatever, so that they feel like they're not entitled to start this thing or pursue it as relentlessly as what other people would. So yeah, it's really interesting to see that. So how did you find transitioning from those things to the gym? Did you feel a little bit lost at the start, or did you just click with it straight away?
Yeah, like at the start, I think I clicked with it pretty fast. Like one of the main reasons going to the gym for me was I didn't have to rely on anyone. It was literally just me. Like with team sports, you obviously have a team. Maybe you'll join a certain team if your friends were there. Like you said, all the different things I done. Like I was playing football, hurling when I was obviously very young. I think from when I was 9 years of age, I got into skateboarding, like playing guitar. Games was kind of like my thing. So like very lonerish things, if that makes sense. Like I'm quite antisocial. I like my own company. And so the gym, it was something that I could do myself. I didn't have to worry who was showing up. I didn't need a friend to go. I just had to go do it myself for myself. And that was a big thing for me. And I found I did click with it very fast for that reason. Yeah, I kind of got into the gym. There was no phase where I was kind of in it for a little bit and then kind of, stepped away from it. From that time I was 17 before college, it has been, non-stop training every week since then, unless obviously I went on holidays or whatever.
Yeah, and I think like once you do get into the gym, like as you said, you were quite an introverted person, but you very quickly begin to click with people just from being around them. Like say me and you didn't know each other at all.
100%.
We were just on the
Nah.
gym floor at the same time a couple of years ago and managed to
Yeah.
get talking. And I think so many like friendships start like that with the gym, because I think
Yeah.
from outsiders
100%.
looking in, if you're not into fitness, it can be very intimidating and very daunting. But when you actually get into it,
Yeah.
then you realize how nice and supportive it is as a community.
Yeah, because everyone's doing
Yeah,
the same thing.
everyone's doing the same thing, has the same goal, and just I think everyone wants to see people doing well. Now that comes with an exception, of course. There is obviously a few people who want
Certain
nothing more than
people.
themselves to do well. Like, but I think you're going to have that in anything. But as a whole, I think the gym
Everywhere.
community is a very supportive like environment. And so go from so obviously you got into the gym, you fell in love with it, and it became a big part of your life. What was the deciding factor then to take it from that to I want to step on stage in front of hundreds of people and compete?
Again, I think, I don't know what I call it, vanity or ego, but I love the idea of standing up against other people and someone saying, you look the best on that stage. You're better than all those people. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's honestly that driving factor. Like, I don't step on stage just to, you know, be able to show, oh, I can diet, I can get lean. Like, I know I can do that. I want someone to tell me you're better than all those other fuckers on stage beside you. As like cocky and as egotistical as that sounds, I love that. And the whole time I was training, I wasn't training to be a bodybuilder. Like, I never had all these bodybuilder idols, or I want to look like this. I never wanted to look like a bodybuilder. I just wanted to look good, look aesthetic, essentially just look good on a night out is where it started. And the longer I was kind of getting into training, I just thought, if I hopped on gear, I can have a good physique and I can compete. I always said to people, like when I was natural, if anyone asked, oh, would you ever compete? I just said, not when I was natural. Like, I was never massive when I was natural by any means. I think I was strong, but being strong and like having muscle are two completely different things. But yeah, I remember when I decided, right, I'm going to hop on, is when I was like, right, let me just see if I can put on size. Let me see if I can cut down what it looks like assisted compared to unassisted, and judge if I can step on stage. And yeah, that was when I decided, you know what, I can do this. Let's push for stage.
Yeah. And obviously it's a big decision to jump on gear, and like, you know, this is something that I am taking a lot of time to kind of spread awareness of through my social media at the moment, because it is a big decision. However, I think what a lot of people don't realize from the outside looking in is, realistically, if you want to be competitive as a bodybuilder, like, it's nearly expected of you. Obviously, you can compete naturally, and it's a route that a lot of people do and are going to do very, very well in. But I think for the most people, you want to be standing up there with the best. And like, as I said, it is nearly expected of you. And it is a big decision that I think a lot of people kind of jump into very, very quick without, you know, fully considering it. And I think TikTok has been a big one now for young people. Like, I've seen it, like, I'm sure you see it yourself. You literally have like 17, 18-year-olds who are putting up stuff about like jumping on gear, and you know, it becomes very normalized. And I think another big factor with the steroids is, I this is something I've been thinking about now. I don't know how true it is, but from what I've seen, it kind of makes sense. I think that anyone who does go to the gym and pours their heart and soul into it and gets into a good shape naturally, all of a sudden everyone is pointing fingers at them saying you're taking steroids anyway. You know, because anyone who gets in decent shape, it's the first thing people say is you're taking steroids. And I suppose then the thought process kind of goes for, well, everyone thinks, you know, I'm taking gear anyway. It's time to prove them wrong, take gear and show them what I can actually look like. You know, so it's very easy to get sucked in. And I think when you know you're going to compete and you know you're going to do shows, it's a little bit more justified then. But I think it's kind of backwards for a lot of people, in the sense that it's, I'm going to take gear, get big, and then decide if I want to compete. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, definitely. Like, again, when I took gear, I wasn't 100% certain I'm taking this to compete. Like, everyone can justify, oh yeah, I started taking gear because I wanted to be a competitor. I wanted to make bodybuilding my life. I can easily say I didn't just take gear for that reason. I had the idea of, right, let's see how my physique looks, and if I can see actual progress, and especially when I wanted to do a little mini cut and see, right, can I get to that kind of condition? Because I never could naturally. I could get somewhat lean, but definitely not to the condition I can get to now. And when I kind of done that first little mini cut, I think it was only 6 weeks, and you know, I could see veins, I could see this dryness, I could see like shit I'd never seen before. And I just thought, yep, I can step on stage. Let me take some time now to actually build up my physique a little bit more, and we'll compete next year. So yeah, for me, I didn't take it with the sole intent of competing. It was definitely one of the reasons, but it wasn't the deciding factor for me to go out, get gear, and inject myself.
Yeah, me too. And sure, look, like, I suppose I'm a living breathing example of why you should do this research, and, like, you know, understand what's involved in it before jumping into it. Now, you know, I would have said that, compared to a lot of people, I would have been a little bit more researched before starting on. But
Yeah,
you can be that unlucky person, and I know definitely I
100%.
was that one in a million that people talk about. But you know, it just goes to show it can happen.
Yeah, it's funny
Do you
actually with
think?
me.
Sorry, go
Well,
on.
go on.
Yeah, go.
Yeah, like when I started, so I was 5 years natural before I started, and like I felt like I had done enough research to, look into things before jumping on, and like I'd done a bit, definitely nowhere near, what I would know now. But it's funny that, when I first started, those first few years when I was less educated, probably ended up with less side effects than what I know now, being more educated and having more preventative measures. I just think that's kind of funny. Like,
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like, I think a lot of people, when they do get into this, they get into it and it's just kind of like they don't have an exit strategy for, in terms of like bodybuilding or taking steroids. It's, do now, think later. And
yeah,
I think it is very important to have an exit strategy. And, I thought that this was a great opportunity to kind of talk to you about it, because I know that, you know, you are very much a normal person in terms of, like, say, compared to other people whose lives are fully invested in bodybuilding. Like, you like to go out and drink cocktails, go out for
yeah,
dinner with your girlfriend, like all this kind of stuff. So what was the thought process in, I suppose, being able to pre-plan your exit of bodybuilding, and what what were your considerations when you were coming to this decision? Because I think it's
yeah.
important for people to kind of actually think about these things as well.
Yeah, so like my exit strategy, I knew I wanted to jump on stage, and I just thought I'm going to jump on stage, just to experience it, to say, I was on stage. I never had the intentions to, let's go chase a pro card. Let's, continue to make a career out of this. And because, like you said, I'm not full-time robot mode bodybuilder. It's not me. I like to enjoy other things outside of that. That maybe, if you are pursuing a full-time bodybuilding career, you maybe can't enjoy as much, like, going out for dinner, off-plan meals, cocktails, just small things like that. But yeah, I knew when I was going to do my first show, the plan was to do the show and then finish up after that. I had said that to Kelly, that was the plan. The first show I prepped for, it was a March 2020. Whenever, yeah, it would have been the first time COVID hit. So I was 4 weeks away
Yeah.
from the show, then it hit. So I was like, I was unfulfilled. I didn't make it to stage. So now I was like, right, dragged out a little bit. Decided to keep going. I TRT'd for ages, didn't know what I wanted to do, but decided, got a coach at the time, and right, let's push and let's do the spring shows next year. Again, another dose of COVID hit, so those shows were finished up with my coaches, and I was just there like, I don't know what to do. Like, how long can I keep dragging the arse out of this? I'm ready to finish. I want to finish up, and that's when I signed up with you and Ryan at the time, and went and said, right, let's push and do the September, October shows, which eventually got out of the way. And I was saying to Ryan the whole way through, I was like, yep, I'm going to do this show, going to finish up right off into the sunset, just be happy, just be, natural lifestyle coach, just, which is what I am. I am a lifestyle person at the end of the day. But then it was when I was coming towards, the latter stages of prep, and, I was seeing this physique. There was people messaging me, messaging Ryan that, I would respect their opinions, saying, this fella has a lot of potential. Another off season or two, he could go for a pro card. And, that was kind of, gassed me up, where I was like, yeah, do you know what? Like, a lot of this progress was made in a garage over lockdown, shitty equipment, shitty mindset. And I just kept thinking, imagine a better environment, like moving to Manchester, a longer off season, give me, 18 months, what could I look like? So that for me then kept me going a little bit longer. So I said, right, let's do one more show. And so it's always, one more show. But I think this time, I'm saying it now, but I really do think this time after these shows, I will be, completely done. I will have got anything I needed to get out of it and be done.
Of course. And like, I think that is such a big thing with it, with people getting sucked into, I suppose, the bodybuilding route is, it's very easy to, your Instagram just all of a sudden is just all bodybuilding. You have these people in your
Yeah.
DMs, as you said, gassing you up, and it's hard to kind of see anything else but that. And I think when you need to plan your life so far ahead, like you're thinking, you know what I mean? Oh, I'm planning this show for 2 years' time, and you literally have all the months planned out. It's very easy to
Yeah.
kind of get sucked in and get attached to an idea, which for me anyway made it very hard to step away. Obviously, I had to step away because of health reasons, and even with that, it was extremely hard when you have invested so much time and effort and all all your your connections are involved in bodybuilding, and you know, when you do step away
It's
from
your whole
that,
life
you're not
essentially.
your whole life pretty much, because that's what it takes to kind of do well in bodybuilding. It needs to kind of take over your whole life. And yeah, once you do kind of step away from that, it's a big adjustment phase that
Yeah,
that people, I don't think, really think a lot about until, you know, the time comes when it actually needs to happen.
yeah,
And
yeah,
yeah, it is
100%.
very easy to kind of get sucked in. And as you said, like you said, you wanted to finish up the last show. Now you're going doing this show, but there
Yeah,
is like there's a lot more to it than just stepping on stage. Like obviously, like the prep and all that is great. You're in a great physique, but like the off season's no walk in the park either. Like it's tough.
yeah, that's for
And
me is where I struggle. You know, like the prep last year, I was the chillest I'd ever been. Best routine, very productive. Like I love prep. Everyone says, you know, you can't enjoy prep more in the off season. I can tell you right now, I would prep all year compared to being in the off season. That is where I really struggle. You know, having to force feed meals, staying up later to get those meals in. It's very very tough. Even just seeing yourself, you know, even around your face, just getting a little bit fatter. There's so much in it, and that is, you know, what I'm really sick of. Like I was saying to Kelly, you know, my whole day revolves around eating meals and what time, you know, I can eat food at. Like when I'm finished check-ins, I'm thinking, oh, I can relax now. I'm like, oh no, I have to eat my next meal. Finish up my next meal. I'm like, right, I'll relax. I'll sit down. I'll do this. But then I'm like, I only have, you know, 57 minutes to eat this or to chill before I have to go to my next meal. So now I'm nearly getting anxious about I don't have time to chill. I have to eat my next meal. And it's just a combination of, you know, all that stress. And like you were saying, you know, with bodybuilding, you get sucked into it. And even that feeling of, you know, being on anabolics, it's a great feeling. And when you have that feeling, it's hard to think of stepping away and, you know, not feeling that good or not feeling strong or maybe seeing your physique start to go downwards. Whereas in my mind now, I can't wait to, you know, finish up taking gear. So I know mentally I'm ready. I think it can be hard to step away when you're not mentally ready, but you almost know you have to step away from it. Whereas right now I know I'm mentally ready. So I think it'll be a lot easier to step away for me.
yeah, no, absolutely. And as you said there, like I think when eating becomes a chore, it can kind of change your whole perspective of it a lot. Like me myself, I developed a really bad like eating disorder. I suppose you could class it as, after I finished bodybuilding, in the sense that I felt so lost after it that I was quite depressed. And after force feeding myself, like I've never been quite like a huge eater anyway, but you know, when you're putting 5,000 to 6,000 calories down a day and you're not enjoying any of it, like it can take its toll on you over time. And like
Yeah.
I developed a really poor relationship with food off the back of it. And like 1 year after stepping away, I'm still trying to, I suppose, get back to normal, like, and just get back into like
Mm.
enjoying food again. But it can turn negative very, very fast. Did you find that?
Yeah. Yeah, like I don't find I have like a bad relationship with food. And like one thing I've always struggled with is eating first thing in the morning. Like for my whole life, like I would very rarely eat breakfast. And if I do, it's at 11 or 12. So it's nearly more of a brunch. Like anytime I used to go to school, I'd never have breakfast because when I wake up, I just feel sick, almost like anxious, and I can't, you know, I can't sit down and relax and eat something. When it was school, I was like, yeah, I can't sit and relax and eat this. I have to get to school. Whereas now it's like,
Mm.
oh, if I sit and eat this, it's going to take me this long, and you know I've work to do, and I just wake up and I just don't feel hungry. So you can imagine, you know, trying to get the calories in, waking up and having a big steaming bowl of oats with thick paste on top of it is just, you know, it's not great. Like we've said before, and you know, I'm looking forward to finishing up just to eat when I'm hungry, stop when I'm full, kind of eat what I want. Like I know when I finish up, I'll always be conscious of food. Like I can't ever lose that. Like I know what's in food. I know what's good for me, what's, you know, bad for me. So it's not like I'm going to finish up and eat like a dickhead, but just not having to force feed meals just because I need to put on muscle or I need to put on size. Like that is what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, absolutely. And like it is really great. I'm really enjoying that now, just being able to kind of eat when you want, what you want. But I think when you're involved in like bodybuilding coaching, you'll never go to a stage where you hit the fuck it button and you're just like, oh, fucking
Yeah.
crisps and chocolate for breakfast. Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you still have to be
Um,
marketable to people as well. If they see you, you know, eating like a dickhead or not looking after yourself, they'll probably pick up on that vibe, you know. So like as an online coach, it's part of the business, part of the, you know, the package that you have to, you know, still look after yourself somewhat.
Of course. And like, I think it's very important as well. Like, this is what I try to say to a lot of my clients who are, you know, lifestyle clients and stuff like that. Like, rather than looking at it as I'm doing this because I'm following a plan, you're doing this because you're going to understand the benefits of it and you know it's good for you. And it's just going to add to the overall, you know, quality of your life. And I think as coaches, like, we're very aware of that, but it's, it can be very easy to slip the other way for other people. You know, I think if you do get into this mindset of I'm just doing this because I'm following this plan, it can very easily, as I said earlier on, turn into nearly a chore and become unenjoyable.
100%.
So what other things do you think people need to consider before, I suppose, starting this? Because, like, say people who might be thinking about getting into competing, like, I suppose the reality of, if you want to do well at this and not, you know, just do dirty bulks and, you know, kind of half-arse it, if you actually want to take this seriously, what are the things you need to consider that people might not necessarily think of straight away? Like, eating was one of them. Like, obviously
Yeah.
people think about eating and stuff, but I don't think they really understand the full extent of, like, having to set, like, I've had to, when my food was quite high, I had to set alarm for, like, earlier than what I'd
Yeah.
normally get up at the morning to get up, have a meal, and I might go back asleep then for a while just to be able to fit that
Yeah.
food in during the day. So
Yeah.
that's obviously one. What else is there?
Like, I would just say, like, before, if someone was considering taking stuff, I was like, well, can you do it before you can take stuff? You know, can you actually train properly? Can you actually eat? Can you diet? Can you put on size? Like, if you can't do all that before, you know, hopping on gear or looking to compete, like, hopping on gear doesn't fix any of that. It doesn't fix shitty training, doesn't fix, you know, shitty eating habits, shitty, you know, sleeping habits. So I just think if someone wanted to jump on without being able to do it naturally first, I'm not saying you need to be the biggest guy naturally, but you need to be consistent and be able to do that. I just think that's ridiculous to hop on gear and think that's going to fix everything, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we can speak from experience because, like, we're on the other side of it now. I think the two of us can put our hands up and say that we jumped on gear a lot earlier than what we probably should have.
Yeah.
Like, say you jumped on before you hired a coach. So
Yeah.
did I, actually. So did I. And yeah, it's a big decision. And, like, I think once you actually hire a coach and you understand how much goes into training, how complex it is, how much goes into nutrition, how much goes into your recovery, like, you really
Yeah.
have your eyes open to, oh my God, there's a lot I can actually improve on here before jumping on gear.
Yeah.
And
Like, I always
yeah,
say, I'd love to go back to before I jumped on. Like, I'd love to go back to when I was natural, but know what I know now, because, like, even though I was training 5 years, like I said, I wasn't big. I think the heaviest I ever got to was like 78 kilos, and that was a soft 78 kilos. Again, just struggled with eating food. And I think when I got somewhat lean, I remember I was a holiday to Portugal, I was like 68 kilos. So essentially 68 kg of, you know, muscle, and not even, you know, stage lean or anything like that. And I just keep thinking, man, if I was back natural, if I knew what I knew now, you know, how much more progress could I've got? You know, I take my eating a lot more serious than what I did then. Like, back then, it was just a calorie is a calorie, chicken fillet roll, Muju chocolate milk, you know, get easy calories in, frozen pizzas. So I'd love to go back and, you know, take it serious. But again, it's something to look forward to, I suppose, when I do finish up, essentially, you know, being natural. Like, I plan to do like full PCT, not TRT or any of that, just completely come off. And I don't think I'm that heavily muscled that I will lose a substantial amount where it's like, oh, you know, he's off. I'm expecting to lose a bit of pop, bit of fullness, but I do think I will be able to retain, you know, a good bit of what has been built at the same time, if I continue to train and, you know, eat decently.
yeah. And do you have any plans for, say, changing up your coaching, your style of training? Like, I suppose, any plans in general for after bodybuilding? What are you like? What does life look like on the other side?
Yeah, like, training wise, I've kind of played around with the idea of this. So I don't have any, you know, immediate desire to change training. I still enjoy, you know, weightlifting and going into the gym and, you know, seeing familiar faces. You know, the gym, like we were saying earlier, is quite a social thing. And that's one thing, like I feel like I missed a little bit coming over here, even though, you know, I have all the lads and all that. It's nice just to see, you know, I don't know, some fella, you know, from back home in the gym and, you know, chatting away and just being able to like step away, take out the headphone and, you know, stop being a bodybuilder for a second and, you know, just be normal and chat normal stuff. Like that is one thing I hate as well, is constantly chatting bodybuilding. Like I like to go to the gym. That's where I'm a bodybuilder. When I like to come home, I like to be Conor Browne, the normal person who I was before I started bodybuilding. So like changing up training, not immediately. If I find I'm going to the gym and I've kind of lost that desire and that fire because I'm not as strong as what I was, and you know I don't look as good, could happen. I could look at doing something different. You know, I don't know. Everyone says, you know, CrossFit or combat sports, something maybe to change it up, something new to start as a beginner, start from the bottom and, you know, climb your way up. Because I think that is the exciting thing about, you know, any aspect is being a beginner, but oh, look at all this room I have to improve. Like,
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting, but it can be very overwhelming as well, because I suppose that is what I've gone through the last year, and I suppose I'm still very much in an experimental phase. And I suppose the mistake I fell into when I first came away from bodybuilding was thinking I needed to have the next couple of years of my life literally planned out straight away. And because I suppose
yeah,
when you're bodybuilding, that's the reality of it. Like you're planning years ahead. Whereas now I'm kind of like, oh, like I don't know what to expect. Like I don't know where it's going to take me. I don't know what I'm going to
yeah,
like find a passion for again. But I suppose just getting out there and trying new things is fun, man. And as you said, just kind of starting at the bottom of the food chain and kind of working your way up is fun. And being able to kind of have that freedom of, you know, okay, this might not be the most optimal for my health, but fuck it, I might enjoy it, so I'm going to try it. Do you know what I mean? As you said, like
yeah,
CrossFit, for example, like I think anyone who's a bodybuilder looking at CrossFit would be like, no fucking way. Like
just cringe.
there's
Yeah,
yeah, it's literally like you'd be thinking like, oh, it's like the risk of injury and all that kind of stuff, because that's what comes into your head
yeah,
when you're a bodybuilder. Everything is just what's the most optimal, what's the most like the least risk
yeah,
of something happening to me, and that's the way you think. Whereas when you come out with that, you're kind of like, okay, you know what, that could be fun. And you know what I mean? If it
yeah.
takes, if like, even if it's not the most optimal, or it's like not going to get
And
me in the
one
best
thing I
shape.
actually thought was, like we were saying about, you know, being optimal, like we completely changed our training when we were, you know, full on in bodybuilding. You know, everything was, you know, squat, bench, deadlift. Who the fuck does that? You know, it has to be an incline Smith machine press. It has to be an RDL. It has to be the hack squat. Where I'm like, you know what, when I finish up, I don't have to be as optimal. I'm not going to be competing. Maybe I want to slap 3 plates on a bench press and bounce it off my chest and see how many reps I can get, you know. So I'm
Yeah,
kind of looking forward to be like, oh, I can just go in and train what I enjoy that day.
yeah, of course. And like I think that like it's very easy to lose that in bodybuilding, like when you're just kind of trying to add one rep to the same exercise every week. And you know, you when you're doing that on repeat for the years and you're constantly chasing this most optimal, you convince yourself that you can't do this. Like you can't, why would
Yeah,
I bench
yeah.
press? You know, I know more
You'll be shunned from
exercises.
the
Like
community if you do.
yeah, exactly. Like, and that's it. Like, say if when we were bodybuilding, or if you now put up a video of you bench pressing, you know what I mean? Like, people will be like, "What the
Not
actual
optimal,
fuck?"
bro.
Yeah,
Yeah, they would like,
literally.
yeah.
But I think like it's very toxic looking in if you are not a bodybuilder, because you know not everyone who follows your bodybuilding journey is going to be a bodybuilder. And then if people think
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I can't do this because the boys say it's not the most optimal," like at the end of the day you need to enjoy it. And like that's what I'm
Yeah.
trying to do now, is I'm just trying to find something that I genuinely enjoy doing. And once you find something that you enjoy doing, it's much easier to just like carry on with it.
Yeah,
And
and I find that's going to be a struggle for me. Like I was saying, like why I started training was because I can just go in on my own, be on my own. I don't need anyone. Whereas we'll say with like any type of combat sport, like I went to MMA once and Muay Thai, and immediately that's something I think, you know, oh, I'd love to get into. You know, I'd love to be able to defend myself, protect myself. It's a serious workout as well. You know, stay lean, athletic, whatever you want to call it. But I go down there and I get severely intimidated and nervous because I'm like I can't do any of this stuff. Like my technique is shit, you know. Are they going to make
mhm,
fun of me? And, you know, you can see how people relate to that, you know, maybe stepping in the gym for the first time.
absolutely. And a very important point I think to make on that is, like, a lot of people who are thinking about getting into the gym, they might look at it and be like, okay, this is hard for me. I don't necessarily really enjoy this. But I'm sure you see it with coaching. It's when people get in and they start doing it and getting better at it, then the love and everything starts to build for it, because ambition is something that slowly creeps up on you when you realize you're
Yeah,
good at something. And I
yeah,
think that's what it is. Like, I was the same when I went into I was doing the Muay Thai, and I felt like I looked like a dope standing there throwing punches at the bag and that. But like, and I really didn't enjoy that for like that first 1 or 2 sessions. And then after a little while, when I came in and started getting like a little bit more technique and got my breathing down and everything, you start enjoying it more. And I think a lot of people just don't actually get in to give it as much of a chance to get to that point of being like, oh, I can actually do this, and believe in themselves. Because
yeah,
there's a lot of imposter syndrome, I think, at the start. Like,
yeah,
like
100%. You get in your own head and you nearly stop yourself from doing something like you could end up being amazing at, but you kind of, you won't take yourself out of the comfort zone. It's intimidating, and you never know, it could be one of the best things you've ever done. You could progress amazingly. Mightn't be for you, but at least you give it a go as well.
yeah, and that's it. Like, I suppose, like, you don't have to, I suppose, have everything just figured out at the start. Like, I find when you do something like this, like, say what I'm doing at the moment is I'm literally just going with the flow. Do you know what I mean? I don't know where this is going to take me business wise. I don't know where it's going to take me training wise.
Mm,
But once you, like, I got caught stagnant for a very long time because I didn't start, because I didn't know these things. And
mm.
once you take that first step, it's so much easier to just keep stepping, keep adding to it. But
Keep the
it's
momentum.
literally, it's like trying to roll a boulder up a hill. Literally, like, when you're trying to get started, it's very, very, very hard. Like, you don't know what you're doing. It's tough. But once you know once you kind of start moving, or not roll a boulder up a hill, but sorry, start rolling a boulder. Once you start rolling a boulder, once it
Yeah,
starts
I was
moving,
gonna say up a
it'll
hill.
keep
I was like,
moving.
fucking hell, man. Yeah,
I
yeah.
absolutely butchered that analogy.
I was like, is that the saying? I was like, it sounds like something might be on your new plan. Roll a boulder up a hill times 3. Give it 5 minutes.
Yeah. That's what happens when you try to sound smart.
Yeah,
But
we got there in the end.
yeah, yeah, literally, once you get it rolling, it's easier to keep it rolling.
Yeah,
Um
100%.
So how is your head at the moment with everything, in terms of, like, say, doing your shows and that? Are you excited? Are you, like, how are you feeling?
Like, so at the moment, I was going to prep for shows around September, October again in 2023. And the longer I was in the off season, I was like, I just felt like I couldn't keep going. I was struggling the off season with the food. I got to my heaviest weight all the time, a lot leaner than when I was last time in the garage before prep. So I know I've made, a good amount of progress, but it was just this constant routine of eating. It was stressing me out more than anything. So I'd said, right, let me just finish out the end of the year. I'll start prep in January. That way, I won't be prepping through summer like I was last year. As much as I enjoyed prep last year as well, it's also a little bit shit doing it through summer, and then you're finished up in October and summer's gone. So I just thought, right, I'll prep in January, do summer shows, be finished, be full natty for summer, and again just riding off into that sunset as a natty. So yeah, right now I'm going to finish off season in January, so still have a little bit to go. Start prep in January, do I think May shows, early May shows around then, and hopefully be finished up by June, July, and just be done with it. So that's kind of the plan for now, anyway.
Yeah, very good, very good. And any plans for after? Are you looking forward to anything in particular, like festivals or traveling, or what are you looking
Yeah,
forward to most?
not in particular. I think it's just having time back. Like, I really feel like my time is stretched. I might be being dramatic, but again, it's just that the meals, having to make meals, I'm just looking forward to, feeling normal, eating when I want, eating kind of what I want within reason, and just, I suppose, having the freedom that if I want to go out and, get pissed or go to a festival, that I know I don't have this thing in the back of my head saying, oh, this might ruin your progress now for the next couple of days. You might lose a little bit of weight if you go off and do this. You're going to have to spend 2 weeks to get that weight back on. Just knowing I can go live, be normal, and again, kind of fit it into the style of coaching I am, of, you know, a lifestyle, be able to show, oh, you know, he can make progress and do normal things, which I feel like I've stepped away from a little bit, not a huge amount. Like I still go out with Kelly, still, you know, get food, still show people I'm making progress. But I think even the posts food wise, like I don't post my food that much anymore, because it's the same meals, it's the same 5 meals every single day, and no one wants to see that. And it's very, you know, boring and bland looking. Whereas when I started coaching and then got into coaching, I feel like it was my meals drew people in, because it was very normal looking meals that people would probably look and say, oh, I like that. You know, he's making progress eating that. I could eat that and, you know, make progress. And so I feel like I stepped away from that a little bit. So I can't wait to just even get back into making content like that, making, you know, macro friendly meals and being all influencery.
Yeah, of course. And do you feel like that when you're like this with bodybuilding, I suppose the end is coming to, or it's coming to an end. Do you feel like your mental health has taken any way of a hit over, say, the last, say, year, say, coming through prep and then post show and then back into the off season? Like mentally, how did you cope with that, or did you find that there was any like points that you were struggling?
Yeah, like mental health wise, I wouldn't say anything. Like everyone always says there's the, you know, the post show blues. And I really didn't have that, because as soon as I was finished, you know, I was straight back on plan, and I was really geared up to be like, okay, I have the perfect starting point. I'm going to rebound. I'm going to get huge. I think I spent like a month back home after the shows, and then we were off in Lanzarote, you know, chilling for 4 weeks. The worst I felt was when I came back from Lanzarote and we were waiting to see where we were going to move. I keep saying it's like a limbo phase. I felt like I was stuck here, but I was like looking to move on, but we didn't know when we were going to go. And then when Manchester finally got sorted, you know, it felt amazing when I came over here. But yeah, mental health wise, I wouldn't say I've had any dips. I've definitely been stressed, just, you know, continuously doing this bodybuilding thing, and, you know, being in this continuous routine, which, you know, suits a lot of people. But the more I'm in it, I'm also looking forward to getting out of it, and, you know, just being normal. Like I'm not a full-time bodybuilder at all. I don't want to ever be put in that category, because it's not me. And I feel like if someone had called me a full-time bodybuilder, then someone else might say, he's not a full-time bodybuilder, you know, he goes out and he drinks cocktails. So I don't want to be called or known as a full-time bodybuilder at all. I want to be known as the guy who lives a normal life but still shows up shredded and will beat your ass on that day on stage.
Unreal. Happy days.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like it's a very complex issue, and I feel like not a lot of people kind of talk about this side of it. Obviously, when you're from the outside looking in, you can see it, and I feel like we would have these conversations among ourselves, but never open on social media. And I think that is like a big issue, I suppose, at the moment, with how open would people are to the reality of what goes into this. What, like, obviously you see obviously you see the stories and stuff like that, and you see like what people go through, but unless you kind of like know a bodybuilder, or like, you know, see it firsthand, it can be very hard to comprehend what goes into it. Because I see it a lot on TikTok now, like the amount of like people who don't know anything about me literally just like hurling abuse at me because they don't know what
Oh,
goes into
TikTok is
bodybuilding.
brutal. Yeah,
It
yeah,
is
man.
brutal.
I
It's
tried
absolutely
TikTok.
brutal.
The comments I was getting on TikTok, I was like, right, I got a few views on TikTok. I was like, this is it. I'm gonna go viral. I'm gonna be famous. I'm gonna blow up. And I think they were all like transformation videos, and it was all just like, legs, bro. Did you train legs? Just like, oh, I was like, that's it, right? I'll only upload my upper half. And it was like a transformation video, and it was before I took year to like standing on stage or fucking just looking jacked or whatever. And the comments were like, you look better before, bro. And you're like, I just spent the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years dedicating my life to this, and people are telling me I look better as a soft natty. You know, it's brutal, man. You
it
can't win with them.
it is literally ruthless.
Yeah,
I'm like obviously trying to take it with a pinch of salt, but Jesus, like the things that people will come out with. But
yeah,
yeah, as I was saying there, like the amount of people who would be commenting just like, you know, just thinking that I just went in, knew nothing about training, took steroids, and then like stopped taking steroids and lost all my muscle. There's obviously a
yeah.
big.
Where's
I've
their
actually
age,
explained
bro?
it. Yeah, I literally explained it on a video on TikTok, but I'm still getting all that. But yeah, just what I was saying there is like it just really opened my eyes to how, you know, like say when a new client starts on with coaching, and you kind of forget how much, or like how little people know until they start talking
Yeah,
to you, if that makes sense. Like what might seem very obvious to us is completely new information to people who aren't necessarily involved in the industry. And I think it's very
yeah,
similar with people from the outside looking in at bodybuilding. Um,
yeah. And
and
that's something I
yeah,
actually tried to do with my posting, because when I got to a point where, you know, you're writing long captions, and I used to be like, right, let me impress the people who are, you know, above me, you know, let me impress the people who have more knowledge than me. Whereas now it's like, they're not signing up with me, you know, and you forget the people who will sign up with you. You know, they might not understand this jargon, like simplify it, dumb it down. Like, even if someone reads that, I'm like, that's obvious and that's stupid. Someone reading that is probably like, you know, above you and is obviously not going to sign up as a client. Whereas, you know, a potential client reads something like that and was like, that is very simple. That makes sense.
and that's such a good point. And like I'm like I tell this to people anyway. Like, don't look up, look down. Not look down,
Yeah.
but it's the people who
Yeah.
don't
You know
know
what you
as
mean?
much as you. So I'm really struggling at the moment. I feel like what I'm putting up is just like so basic, coming
Yeah.
from the bodybuilding background, and obviously you have to be a little bit
It's
more
tough.
complex,
Yeah.
and it is hard. Like, but I think that is a huge thing that I suppose people getting into the industry, a mistake that they make. Like, it's nearly like they're typing the words into the thesaurus, and you know,
Thesaurus.
getting like,
Yeah. Literally. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, all
So
the
you ever seen that
buzzwords.
episode in Friends where he's signing off, baby kangaroo Tribbiani? So
Yeah.
funny.
Oh, that is so good. But
So
like
good.
it is like that's what people do. Trying to sound like they know more than what they do. And look, like, I
Yeah.
suppose everyone kind of falls into that. I did at some stage as well.
Yeah.
But I think once you kind of actually step back and, you know, take a more simplified approach, and you see the results of that, it becomes much easier
Yeah.
to start doing it. But as I said, I'm still kind of
100%.
in the process of going through that.
Yeah. I'm similar
And
as
you
well.
just
Like,
need
you
to
can see it in
go on.
you. I
Yeah.
was like, you can see it in some of the guys who are, you know, like kind of on the come up now, you know, who are going to be like the next kind of local online coaches or whatever. You can kind of see they're trying to, you know, spout the jargon, but not really sure what they're saying, but possibly heard this phrase or this, you know, new word in another coach's post, and they're trying to put it into their own post, and it just comes off, you know, it's just stupid. It just doesn't make sense. And you can imagine if we're thinking, well, like, what the fuck? Someone who could be a potential client for them is just like, none of those words made sense. Scroll, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. And at the end of the day, another big thing that people need to consider before getting in is like, you are your own walking advertisement. Like, there's no point
Yeah.
in putting up posts about, you know, the most optimal way to do a reverse band, daisy chained, you know,
Yeah.
all this. Like, if you don't have a physique to back that up, because at the end of the day, people are going to, like, people want to see that, okay, this information that you're putting up actually works, you know.
Mm,
um,
yeah.
and yeah, I think people just get way too ahead of themselves, and, you know, start trying to, yeah, just start trying to be something that they're not.
It's easy to just put online coaching in your bio for everyone now, like, isn't it?
Yeah, it literally, like, yeah, yeah. So let's go a little bit off the topic of bodybuilding for the moment.
Yup.
Tell me, tell me. I'll edit this bit out. But right, give me 3 places you want to go traveling after bodybuilding.
Oh, after bodybuilding. Okay, so Italy is a big one for me. So, like, Italy, I want to do Rome. I want to do the Colosseum. I'd love to do Venice and also Florence as well, because Florence is like a little Italian town. So I'm just going to group that into Italy. I really want to do America as well. I've never been to anywhere in America. So I'd really like to do America. And then another place, I'm trying to think of a nice little. Actually, do you know what? I'd love to do Prague. I've seen people go to Prague and just
Prague.
having good times. Yeah, just cheap city break. I wouldn't mind doing Prague. We're going Paris in October, but I've already been there before, so I won't say that.
Yeah, fair. Yeah, no, like, that's a big thing I'm looking forward to now after, is obviously just going traveling. moving out to Bali now in January. And, you know, that was something I never could have done as a bodybuilder, I suppose, because, you know, when you're trying to consider like the food and like getting to the gym and the climate and everything, is just, as I said, not optimal. But that is something that I'm very much looking forward to. And just having that freedom to be able to, you know, bounce around from place to place. It was something that I didn't think was an option for me until I was in my 30s, when I was considering bodybuilding, you know, because I was like, right, no, it's just going to be either deep in an off season or deep in a prep, so can't go traveling. These are the kind of things, man, that you know, like there's so much more to just going to the gym and getting big and all this out there.
That's it, man. There's so much more that you'd miss out on as well. Like the time we went to Lanzarote, like the first few days, man, we were there, we were in the sun, great weather, drinking a pint that was like €3, fucking a full Irish breakfast, cheap as chips. And we were like, man, why don't we just stay here? And I was like, you know, I can move here. We'll get the dog to come over here. You know, we can stay here, no problem. We know a couple of people there as well. Great time. All we have is just happy memories in that place. And then just towards the end, I was like, nope, I have an off season coming up. I can't, the heat, the food, wouldn't be able to do it. Like, you have to think about so much when it comes to bodybuilding if you actually want to progress at it. Whereas when I'm finished, you know, I could easily just pack up and go to Lanzarote for a bit, like, you know, if I wanted to stay there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's just, it's really nice having that freedom, freedom with your life, freedom to just, live your life. So I think we'll wrap it up there. That was a very good first episode. Thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed having the chat. For anyone who's made it this far, thank you so much for tuning in. As I said, if you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and if you're sharing to your story, be sure to tag us, and stay tuned for more episodes in the coming weeks.